Good morning. I am out here on my morning walk and I am going to make a video today because a lot of people have asked me to do a what I eat in a day video. I'm not usually a huge fan of these because I don't want people to be comparing what they eat to mine and have to try to match my macros, but I also understand the value in it in seeing, what kind of foods can pair with what as far as creating that proper calorie breakdown, macro breakdown when you are reintroducing whole food carbohydrates and bringing down the fat. So I'm gonna do that for you today. So while I'm here on the walk, I'm gonna talk about a few other things too. Is there has been a drastic mindset shift that has been needed in order to shift over to this way of eating, because there were all these rules around keto, certain foods you could not have, a lot of foods that I couldn't have, same with carnivore, right? So have to shift over to really being intuitive and listening to my body and seeing what is my body telling me, right? Like, is my body telling me I need these carbs? Am I getting more anxious? Am I feeling calm? Am I, just going more symptom wise in the sense, and what is being relieved and what is not, versus this whole restrictive mindset. So yeah, really understanding as a female with my cycle, how my cycle is doing. And that is one thing I do want to touch upon actually, is how much it has improved. Right when I thought it was doing well, it actually got even better. Having very consistent 27 to 28 day long cycles, having my periods are now 3 to 4 days in length. They were 5, which isn't bad, but I think we can all appreciate a shorter period, right? As long as it's still in a healthy range. The other thing I do is I measure my urine metabolites at home with a device called Mira. Some of you may have heard of Anito monitors. So basically you pee in a cup and you stick the wand in there and then you put it in this machine, and it tells you your estrogen, your progesterone, and your LH hormones. And it did say my estrogen was normal before, but it was on the higher end of normal. The one negative of recording while walking is when your dog has to poop and you gotta stop and pick it up. But that's life. So anyways, my hormones, my estrogen was on the higher end of normal. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, but I just find it interesting that now that I have done more of a higher carb, lower fat, not as much protein, I'm doing about 100 to 125 grams of protein now a day. But I think it's really the carbohydrates that's really helping. So get to the point, Jen. My estrogen is now on the lower end of normal, which for me feels much better. Like if my estrogen was on the higher end of normal, and even some days were high, I did not feel good. I had the bloat. I had a lot of the estrogen dominant signs. The other benefit too is, so LH is luteinizing hormone. It's the hormone that spikes to release the follicle from your ovary and release the egg from the follicle actually. So my LH was not peaking very much. I was ovulating because I was producing progesterone, but it wasn't a very strong ovulation. And this cycle was the first time that my LH peaked really nicely, really nicely. So things are definitely balancing out. And I also didn't have any cramps during ovulation. I've had cramps during ovulation for years. This was the first one that there was nothing. So there's definitely things moving in the right direction. Eating the right type of carbohydrates that support women's hormones. Not going out and eating donuts and pizza and ultra processed junk food. I'm sticking to the fruits, the honey. Actually, honey I have not done very much. I do it very sparingly. That one does not sit well with my blood sugar very well. It does spike much higher than I'd like it to. Maple syrup is also sparingly, but the fruits I do wonderfully with. So yeah, I'm going to take you for a walk through my day and what I eat in a day. And I also have a CGM on, so we will be looking at the blood sugar response. Now, speaking of that, one of the things that has shifted in my mindset is being so concerned about how high the blood sugar spikes. I don't believe any longer that a blood sugar spike is necessarily bad in itself. It just depends on how often it's spiking and how soon it returns to baseline, as well as if there's a reactive component, right? So it returns to baseline, but does it go too far down that it creates a reactive hypoglycemic event? So you will probably see some spikes. If you've been in the keto carnivore space for a while, you are probably going to see it and be like, oh my gosh, that's a high spike. But I'm just being transparent here and going to be showing you the truth of what happens when I eat. But I will also show you the report that comes up on the daily basis and the weekly basis that shows what my fasting blood sugar is, what my average blood sugar is, which we can then convert into an A1C per se. If it's consistently like this every day, we could say this is what my A1C looks like. One of the other things I wanted to say before we get to the food, since I'm still on my walk, was the keto adaptation phase. So this is, when you go carnivore, when you go keto, there's an adaptation phase. There's a time of, you might be getting some keto flu symptoms, the headaches, the cramping, things like that. There's also an adaptation phase of coming back to eating primarily carbohydrates, except depending on what you were doing before, if it was more zero carb, it could take a little bit longer for that adaptation phase. So for me, I feel like I'm just barely getting out of that adaptation phase right now, having those carbohydrates. And just for the heck of it, ever since I started increasing my carbohydrates even more above 100 grams, which has been since June, I have been measuring my ketones on my Keto Mojo. And for a while, I was still producing a good amount of ketones, even though I was well over 100 grams of carbs. And it would be like 0.5, 0.9. And then I would say in October, it started going down to more 0.4, 0.3. And this month, a few days ago, was the first time that it was below detectable limit. So this has all been part of the adaptation phase since June, July, August, September, October. So it's been like 4 to 5 months of my body still pushing, trying to make ketones, trying to metabolize and utilize the fat to turn it into ketones, because it is just so used to doing that. So I'm really looking forward to the next few months, seeing what happens as I continue this journey. And I want to see, will the ketones stay low, undetectable? Will it be easy for me to turn it back on if I do want to use it? Yeah, just experiment. All right, so for breakfast, I am going to do some yogurt. I buy this one at Costco with prime protein to boost up the protein. I got some goji berries and a banana for my carbohydrates. So I'm going to show you real quick, because some people feel like tracking is a pain. This is what I'm doing, okay? Literally just on the food scale, plopping this in here. Now, on the nutrition label, it shows 170 grams is 18 grams of protein. So I'm gonna at least aim for that. Yeah, that's close enough. 207, okay. 196, it's switching around. So I'm gonna type in 196 to my carb manager. And then the next ingredient, I will just tare it and then add in the protein powder. So adding that in here. Now, when I add protein, when I add the prime protein to my carb manager, I don't do the grams, I just do the scoop. Okay, I'm going to add the goji berries now. So I'm going to hit tare, so it's back at 0. I mixed up the yogurt, obviously. So these show 26 grams for 40 grams of goji berries. So I'm going to aim for at least that 40 grams. Okay. I like these instead of the granola because I don't do well with nuts. So these add just a little bit of crunch. And we're almost there. There we go, 43, good enough. All right, and now I'm gonna do the banana. So tear it again, and I'm gonna chop up the banana, put it in there, and put it all in my carb manager. All right, so that's 99 grams of banana. Now I'm gonna put it all into carb manager, and if anything is off on the ratios, as far as maybe I don't have enough carbs or I have too much protein or not enough fat, then I adjust accordingly. See, I have almost a like 1-to-2 ratio with protein and carbs, but I have no fat in this meal. So I am going to add Keto Brains. So this is Keto Brains I'm using. It's an MCT powder, but it also has other nootropics that help with mind. So lion's mane, alpha GPC, L-theanine, all of that to help with a chill but yet focused mind. All right, I just dropped one of the boys off at school. I'm gonna head to the gym. I like to go 2 to 3 times a week, heavy lifting. So I'm gonna do that. It's only been a half an hour since I've eaten. And so we'll look at the CGM graph once all of this is done. About 2 hours after my breakfast. So glucose is at 86. It peaked up to 121, just about 30 something minutes afterwards. And then while at the gym, it did go a little lower. I didn't really feel anything negative about it. I think it was just because I was lifting really heavy weights, doing hip thrusts and deadlifts and such. And then as I took things a little bit slower, it balanced out. So that's breakfast. Okay, I'm back from the gym and I just want a little bit of a post-workout snack. So I have an apple with some sunflower butter. I can't do peanut butter or almond butter. Most nuts really bother me. Sunflower butter I can handle. It wasn't enough protein, so I added this leftover chicken meatball, and then that made my macros fit pretty well. We are on our way to run some errands, and it's been an interesting day with some stressful events. So I am making I made myself a mushroom coffee. So I use everyday dose. I have a splash of milk with some monk fruit and creatine because of my workout today. So if this does impact my glucose, I'll share the graph right here, but usually this is very mild. All right, so I was just making lunch and the chicken finished first before the sweet potatoes. So I just started eating the chicken, forgetting that I was recording this and was going to take a video or a picture of it. So I did have chicken breast here with Japanese barbecue sauce, and I was air frying chunks of sweet potato. This has, oh, there's the fridge. The sweet potato has nutmeg, pumpkin spice, and I forget what else I put on it, as well as maple syrup. So here's the macros for that. And we'll see what the blood glucose does. All right, so you can see here is the CGM graph for the sweet potatoes with the chicken. It didn't rise very far up. It went down, but then there was that second bump. But overall, within 2 hours, it was back to baseline. It didn't stay high very long. So I'm pretty satisfied with that one. Now for dinner, I have a little bit of a smorgasbord. We have some chicken teriyaki meatballs. We've had beef ribs in the freezer for a while. We needed to eat them and get rid of them. So I have only 2 ounces here, as well as the rest of the sweet potato that I didn't eat earlier. So here on the right side, you'll see the macros for this meal, and then let's see what the blood sugar does. All right, so here is my graph from dinner with the chicken meatballs, beef ribs, and sweet potato. I did have a little bit less carb than what my tracker was telling me to do, and the reason for that was because I knew that I was having beef ribs, so I didn't want to have high fat, high carb. But I'm actually surprised. It's very interesting. If you look at my graph from lunchtime with the chicken breast and the sweet potatoes, I had the double spike, but then with dinner, I only had a very incredibly low, if any, spike. It only went to 101. That was wild. So it's very interesting. I don't know if I was just doing too low fat before, and if I don't couple it with some fat, then the spike tends to be higher and I tend to get more of a reactive hypoglycemic event in a sense. But yeah, these are my macros for dinner. Definitely not as much carb as it was telling me to do, but I'm noticing for myself, if I have lower carb in the evening, my blood sugar stays balanced and doesn't spike as high. So that's my macros for the day. So yeah, I will be changing up the macros a little bit. I will be increasing the fat just a little bit and bringing the carbs down again just a little bit, because I'm playing around and wanting to figure out what works for me, what keeps the blood sugar balanced. I'm definitely feeling much better in many different ways, in strength in the gym, energy throughout the day. I don't feel exhausted to the point that I'm just going to lay there and do nothing. I was doing that a lot over the past couple years, but now I just feel energized. There is the anxiety component that I'm still working on, and that's one of the reasons I'm going to increase the fat a little bit as well and bring the blood sugar down. But yeah, I'll keep giving updates, so stay tuned, subscribe to the channel to make sure you get more updates. Don't forget to like and comment your thoughts. What do you think about all this?